Hello, and, and welcome to our program presented by the Natural Resources and Environment Advocacy Committee, sponsored today by the League of Women Voters of the Grand Traverse Area and hosted by the Traverse Area District Library with technology and media support from Traverse Area Community Media. I'm Ann Sweeney, Chair of the Natural Resources Advocacy Committee. The League of Women Voters is a national, nonpartisan organization. That means the League never endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties, but it does work to obtain and share information to the public about candidates and their views. The League promotes the informed and active participation of all citizens in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues through education and advocacy, and we advocate only when we have a well-researched and developed position. The League of Women Voters continues to endorse the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy adopted nationwide at all three levels of our League. Membership is open to anyone 16 years of age or older. The program today is being shown on Channel 189 with Spectrum Cable in Northwest Lower Michigan and on TACM Community Media website at www.tacm.tv/community-tv now, and of course, right here with you today. Our monitor this evening is Bill Stott. He's a member of the Natural Resources and Environment Committee, and he will introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Nick Roster.
Thank you all for being here. Title of the talk this evening is dealing with microplastics in the environment. It's a topic which has obviously become a little more in the aware category for most people. Dr. Rick Roster is a native of Traverse City, graduated from Traverse City Senior High School. I guess it says before it was Central, before my time. After researching toads at Central Michigan University and rattlesnakes in Oklahoma. Now, there's a story you guys got to pump them for later. Anyway, he found his way back to Michigan, fortunate to us, through Wyoming, where he met his wife. He's currently in his 19th year at NMC and has two sons at TC West. Evening's program is focused on the occurrence of microplastics in our immediate environment, the Grand Traverse region, as part of his innovative approach to teaching biology at NMC. That last bit is spot on. Nick was my mentor when I was teaching at NMC and has very innovative approaches to how higher education can be improved. So, Dr. Roster.
Thanks. I always like listening to what people have to say because I don't agree with you, Bill. I'm not that great. This presentation is really kind of twofold. One is to kind of talk about the occurrence of microplastics in the environment, and the other one is how we can use a topic like this to get students involved in scientific research at a community college level and have that research be impactful. So that's why it's up here. It says, I wish it were a cure, but it's not. So we're looking at microplastics in the Boardman-Ottaway watershed, and it's a cure. That's course-based undergraduate research experience. It's not, I don't have any solutions. Well, I have some, all right. In looking for a project I wanted to get my students involved in, and so we're talking about, like, if you've been to college and you've taken general biology, that's the courses that we're talking about. And typically, what we do in those courses is we do some canned labs. We look at, here's how diffusion works, here's what osmosis looks like. And I said, those just aren't, they're not fun. The students are always looking for what's the right answer. Like, there is science, there's no right answer. There's just answers that we find, and maybe we wish they were right, but sometimes they're not. So I started looking for a project where students could get involved deeply in science. I came across a group out in Montana that took 2 years, and they surveyed their watershed, the Galatian watershed, which is huge, used citizen scientists and then analyzed their watershed for microplastics. I said, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Why not try that here? We have a really nice watershed. We're tied to water. Water means a lot to our community, and the students will be tied to that as well. And we can go out along this watershed and do our sampling. I had no idea. I mean, I guess I kind of knew. I don't know. You live here and you just don't think about it, right? And so I started one summer. I drove the entire watershed. I'm like, oh, there's a long way. I have to go all the way here and then come down around and go over there. But on this map, you can maybe see it, barely see it. There are purple dots all over. Those are all of our sample points along the watershed. We sampled 21 sites. There was only one site way out here, site T. We decided not to sample that because in the wintertime, you can't get to it. I mean, I guess NMC doesn't have a snowmobile, so we couldn't get there. So I said, let's just not worry about that. But we set up the sampling points. I sat down with the conservation district and said, here's what I want to do. Do you have any input on where I'm sampling? I figure if we sample all the way from the mouth of the Boardman all the way out to all the way out and beyond Kalkaska. And they had some input, but if you kind of spend some time and look at this map, you'll notice that there's a lot of threes. There's 3 sample points here. There's 3 sample points here. There's 3 sample points here. And what we're trying to do is determine, 1, is there plastic in the watershed? The answer is yes. 2, can we figure out where it's coming from? I think that answer is probably no. But if we were to sample the main river, so here's the Boardman Ottaway proper, and then it breaks back, right back here into the north and south branch. And so if we get a whole bunch of plastics here in the main river, can we go back and see, is it coming from the south branch? Is it coming from the north branch? So that's the reason for the triangulation around almost every tributary that's coming into the Boardman Ottaway. Okay. All right. And of course, it's gorgeous. Ask, I think probably not all, but most students, would you rather be in a lab or would you rather be here? And they're going to say here. Yep. And so that's the conservation inside the conservation district. And look how happy she is. Here we are. We sampled year round. We are still sampling. We got March is our next sampling, so we're going to be sampling in March. So we're sampling out in all weather, and there are students that you have that really start to, like, this is their element, and this is what they want. And she only fell in once, and she's still smiling. This was before she fell in. But you can see, so we're out sampling. We do river monitoring a little bit as well. And then I have this to remind me, we did 3 at every sample point. We took 3 samples. We called it left, middle, right. So we did a transect across the river. Is there more on one side of the river than the other? Is there differences in where we find the plastic within the river? So those are the things that we started to just kind of look at. I had a student kind of do it was almost like a test of idea here. We went out to the mouth of the Boardman, got some water, brought it back, filtered it. So you can see this is on filter paper, And this is all the stuff in the river. And we were looking, and she goes, there it is. I found it. You're like, you're excited for about 20 seconds until you realize what you're excited about, and then you're not excited anymore. But this is what we have to deal with is, all right, this is, how do you find anything in there? Of course, I can see the plastic. And I think most people can. It's right here. So there's a nice big blue question mark there. But organic material like this will get in the way. It can hide plastic, and it's hard to see around it, and it depends on how much organic material you get. So the proof of concept worked. We can find it. But now we said, now how do we, from here, how do we start making it more economical? How can we get rid of the organic material? So great stuff. We talk to the students, and what can we do? Look at papers, look at what other people have done. And so what we did is we take all of our samples now through a digesting process. Anybody know what's the hydrogen peroxide? When you buy it in the store, how strong is it? It's 3%. That's 3%. We're using 30% hydrogen peroxide. It'll turn your fingers absolutely white, or maybe it will digest you. So we don't take that chance. So we use hydrogen peroxide and iron sulfate as a catalyst, and we digest all of the organic away. Well, luckily, in choosing to work with plastics, it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of things that you want to test that you've got to put things on ice, and you've got to get it back to the lab in a certain amount of time, and you got to do this and do that. Here's like, yeah, I don't know, just, oh shoot, here's a bottle. It's been in my hot car for 3 days. Okay, no big deal, right? We're digesting with 30% hydrogen peroxide. All the organics goes away, and guess what's left? Plastic or minerals. So here's an example of, there was organics on here, it's all gone, and now you can see the plastic. And now you see, when you know what you're looking for, all of a sudden you see it automatic. There it is, right there. Okay. These two lines are 5 millimeters apart. So when we're talking about microplastics, microplastics are 5 millimeters and below. All right. But above a certain, I don't remember what it is, after any smaller, it becomes nanoplastic, which is even, we can't detect that, but we can detect microplastics. And this is probably on the order of 10 to 15 micrometers, very small. So there it is. There's an example of a very small bit. And then you start seeing it everywhere. So here we see purple fibers here, blue fiber there, blue fragments all over the place. I do remember one time we were, the students, we'd go out, we'd get our samples, we'd come back, we'd digest them, start looking at them, and a student was just, she stood back from the microscope, rubbed her eyes, I can't do this. Like, well, of course you can do this. Says, no, I can't count all that. Like, what are you talking about? So I'd look, it's blue fragments by the thousands. And normally we get, you can count. I mean, this, she was right, she couldn't count it. We had to estimate how much we saw. And luckily that was just one time. But all of a sudden, where's all this blue plastic coming from? And so now we're going to start to tell a story. We don't know what the answer is, but I'll bet that upstream, someone's got a blue tarp on their property and it's shedding, and it's rain just brings it all into the river. We don't know, but we could go out and look. Right? So those are the types of stories that we can start to tell. This is another great one. Unless you know what you're looking for, you're not going to see it, but I see it right away. This particle is probably along the lines of about 10 microns, and there it is right there. Okay? So we're seeing incredibly small particles, which is pretty impressive. I think these microscopes just magnify 30 times. And so even with that, we can get pretty small. And then there's things like this. We found hundreds of these. Like, what the heck is this? And I'm not a water person. I studied frogs and I studied rattlesnakes. And then I switched from rattlesnakes to studying students, and I found that they're just as venomous. But so I'm not a water person. So I sometimes I don't know, but it's good. This is a thing you talk to the students about. I don't know what this is. Well, let's figure it out. What's going on? And well, we'll sort of count these because these are prevalent and they're pretty obvious. You touch them and they break. And what the heck is it? Well, it turns out it's a remnant of an algae. It didn't digest. It's still, but it's still there. But that's a really great learning process that with a design like this that you can model for the students. Hey, I don't have all the answers either, but let's figure it out together, right? But this one was, and we still get it. It's just a little algae. And then we run across problems in the lab. This is to remind me of the problems that we have in the lab. We're washing things with distilled water, and we rinse the bottles out and before we go, and we capture some of that water and see, is there contamination in the bottles or somewhere? And all of a sudden we're getting purple fibers everywhere. Like, what the heck is going on? We're wearing lab coats to keep fibers on our clothes. We're wiping down the tables. And I talk to our lab manager and I say, geez, these tables are going to be the cleanest on the entire campus because we clean them every time. He goes, yeah. And facilities wipes them down every night. What? What do they wipe them down with? Oh, I don't know. So I go talk to facilities. Hey, do you wipe down the lab tables every night? Yeah. What do you wipe them down with? This? Oh. Use some Scotch tape and do a pull on it, put it under the microscope, and there's all of our purple fibers. Okay. And so learning. So now we're learning, right? We're learning how to keep a clean lab, which we can't do. I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've found. This is just over part of the year. And these are the things that I get to talk about with students too. This is just sheer numbers of particles. Presently we don't have the capacity to figure out what kind of plastic it is. You can talk to me later if you've got, some little bit of cash lying around. We need to buy a spectrometer. I'll put your name on it. So this is just sheer particles. And then, what the heck? Oh, May is great. What a great month. And I said, that's because you guys didn't gather data correctly. And we had to throw a whole bunch out. And then we have to go back and recount, and we have to do things. And so teaching students about how do you do this? How do you gather data properly so you don't have, this is the wrong kind of error, all right? This is human error. So, but just to give you an idea, we did just a quick calculation. If what did we do? We took one sample at the mouth of the Boardman and extrapolated that out. No, what we did was we took all of our samples and said, this is how many particles we found. But that's sampling one day a month for 12 months. So what if we went out every day a month for 12 months? What would we find? We kind of did that extrapolation. It would be over 2 million particles that we would have found. And so we go out and we capture a liter's worth of water. So it's just a random sample. So a lot of plastic coming down the river. Why is this important? Why is it important to know? Well, as you might have heard, that plastics are an emerging but also a forever pollutant. They don't ever go away. They just keep getting smaller. We just won't be able to see them. Right? They're gone. Nope, they're still there. Until they go back to carbon atoms, they're still there. They continually degrade. They've been shown to bioaccumulate. If you remember eagles and DDT, the bioaccumulation of DDT into eagles, we're seeing the same thing with plastics. Predators get more plastics than the producers. We've seen plastics in plants. We've seen plastics everywhere. The health effects are as yet unknown. There's been one study that's talked about plastics and cardiovascular health. We're finding, that's that one, the possible link. They're finding plastics in every organ. 20 some dogs and 19 humans, and all of the samples had plastic in testicles. Okay, and then we start to think about, well, but we don't know if does that cause problems? I don't know. We don't know yet, but human fertility rates are dropping. Why? Gastrointestinal cancer is going up in young people. Why? We don't know. But could it be plastics? Well, plastics are really good at sucking up pollutants in the environment, other pollutants in the environment. So by themselves, they could be benign, but as they come in, they pull in PFAS, they can pull in PFAS into them, and then they bring that into the body, right? So there is a potential for problems, but we're kind of in the Wild West right now. We just don't know. Okay. See, how much fun are they having? And oh, good, I get to point this out. I totally forgot about this picture. So we're in the lab. We're wearing coats. We're trying to do all that we can to minimize contamination. Here they're filtering the samples, and then out in the field, we talk about procedure on how do you minimize contamination in the field. And my student here is standing upstream of the sampler. I said, "What's the problem here, Liam?" "Oh, I'm on the wrong side." "Yeah, okay." So if he's shedding plastic, it's going right into the bottle. So it's awesome. I love. Yeah. Oh, sure. That's all right. I don't want to do that. I'm going to do it anyway. Is nestled in the heart of Kalkaska and Grand Traverse counties, prized for its beauty and for many recreational activities. At Northwestern Michigan College, biology students in 2 introductory biology courses have embarked on a survey of the river to determine the level of a nearly invisible pollutant, microplastics. Microplastics are particles smaller than 5 millimeters and typically invisible to the naked eye. Students sample the river monthly, then assess the samples for the presence and type of microplastic. The most common type of particle found are microfibers, more than likely from the clothes that we all wear. What's in store for the Boardman Ottaway watershed? We've really just started a survey effort that will probably take 2 years to complete. In the meantime, we are presenting to various local stakeholders to let people know what we are finding. This is the problem with, I don't know, please advance. Okay, so I had students take cameras and go film stuff, and then we made this short little video. This short little video was then submitted to a entity over in England doing a competition for creative things around education and in the environment, climate change, and that sort of thing. And we came back and said, "You've won to get into the next round. Here's 2,000 pounds." And I said, "Well, that's a lot. It's like a ton of money. 2,000 pounds. All right." So now we've created another video, upscaled a little bit if we have time. It's a 9-minute video. They told us to cut it down to 5, but it's still 9, and we like it. But I can give someone a link, and you can go out and watch it. You can Google it, YouTube, NMC Microplastics. I'm sure it'll come up. But one of the best things, at least from my perspective, about a program like this or a problem like this is students start asking questions. They're intrigued. They want to know. And so it has spawned a number of other research projects that we've started. We're kind of like becoming some kind of microplastics research hub, which fantastic. The students really appreciate it. We've looked at residential wells. Spoiler, my well is 212 feet deep, and I'm getting plastic out of it. 212 feet. And he said, "Well, it's in your pipes." No. I mean, my pipes are plastic, but it doesn't shed fibers, right? Pipes aren't made out of fiber. So 212. I've got some pictures of earthworms. The student said, "Hey, it's raining. I wonder wonder if earthworms have plastic. Why are you making me do this? So we went out and got earthworms. We've been looking at the city drinking water. We just had, I have students here that are more than welcome to at any time. Oh, that's mine. I want to do it. I want to talk about it. But had 2 students working on air sampling in the spring and all summer long, all the way to January, where the snow kept just clogging up our air sampler. We just said, well, we're done. So we've done air sampling. Another class has done soil sampling. I've talked with Munson about doing potential tissue samples. So there's all kinds of research opportunities. Okay, it doesn't like me. Whoops. This is an example of an air sample. We stain the samples with a stain called Nile red. We use an epifluorescence microscope, and the particles take in Nile red and they fluoresce yellow underneath a green wavelength of light. And so anything that's on there is yellow is microplastic from the air. Okay. Yeah, no, we're breathing it in. Yeah. Idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Fibroid tissues in the lungs for no known reason. Give me tissue samples. We'll take a look. I don't know. I'm not. This is not. It sounds doom and gloom, but it really is. No. Here's an earthworm, but not anymore. Same thing. You can get an earthworm. You euthanize it, and then you digest the earthworm. What's left is minerals and plastic. This is an earthworm that was, how long is that? Less than 4 inches long, and had a fiber in it over 5 millimeters long. And that was just the highest number of particles I found in one earthworm, again, these little guys, was 75. So there's that. There's another. So these are things that you're proud that you can do it, but you're also sad, right? You see one, and then you'll see the other, and then you'll see the other, and it just starts. You start just counting. Okay. So those are earthworm innards. And then earthworms make it hard because they eat dirt, and the sand and silica don't dissolve, but then you can still see particles around those. And then, if it's not bad enough, if it wasn't bad enough, rotifers are little animals. They're sessile, they don't move. They use their rotors up on top to bring water into them, and they eat what's in the water column. And it's thought that plastics take hundreds or thousands of years to degrade. And then they found these. The rotifers will bring in microplastics, and as they come in, they have a mouth, and they chomp stuff as it comes in. And they found out that rotifers are making nanoplastics out of microplastics to the tune of 200,000 to 400,000 particles a day. One rotifer. And they're just doing what they do. And I'm sure it's not good for the rotifer to have all these plastics inside it. And so the degradation might be happening faster than we first thought. Who's involved in this? Grand Traverse Conservation District, Kalkaska Conservation District, the Watershed Center, Inland Seas has given me some gobies and some rusty crayfish to dissect that I still haven't yet. Our own NMC Office of Possibilities has given us money so we could buy the microscope, so we could buy field equipment. And then the City of Traverse City Water Treatment has been involved. There's nothing, we're starting to analyze that data. There's not a whole lot to say that it would be surprising. And then this past month, February, we just started sampling the Platte River. Why the Platte? The Platte's an interesting thing because it's, if you think about the Boardman, there's more development at the mouth of the Boardman and less development as you go back. On the Platte, most development is around the beginnings of the Platte, and then it gets less as you go out. to the lake. But the Platte also has a number of lakes in the river, right? A part of the river. So do the lakes become sinks for plastic? Are they a source for plastic? So these are other questions that we can ask. And so Benzie Conservation District has just been added, an Ann Lake Owners Association. And I said, why is it Ann Lake? I said, it's Lake Ann. I said, no, actually it's Ann Lake. I said, no, it's not. It's always been Lake Ann. So here's what can you do? I'm always a big proponent of testing things out. So I do things to myself all the time and I see what happens. So I've tested some of these for you. I'm not trying to sell anything, right? But I know brand names and that sort of thing, but there are things. First, don't use plastic. Good luck, but you can reduce the amount of plastic that you consume, right? I think the only way, what's the ultimate way to stop this? Stop making plastic. That's the only way. That's not going to happen. Single-use plastic is one thing. You know, there's going to be plastic in cars and stuff forever, but it's not single-use. We're not throwing out cars every day, right? We're throwing out plastic bags and straws and other things. So we can reduce that. Use bar soap instead of liquid soap. Liquid soap comes in a plastic container, and all those plastic containers go into the 25,000 truckloads of plastic a day get dumped into the ocean. We need to stop that, right? So using bar soap, my house has switched over to bar soap. Bar shampoo, never heard of it before, but it's out there, and there's companies that make it. I don't have to Google bar shampoo. It's a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't come in a plastic bottle. A lot of these companies that do things like this are packaging things in paper or in little tins or glass. So they know that we want to get rid of plastic. Toothpaste pellets, toothpaste tubes, they're all plastic. They used to be metal, right? But now they're plastic, and billions of toothpaste tubes a year. So toothpaste pellets. Mouthwash pellets, same thing. There's one company, I'm listing off all of the things from one company. Toothpaste pellets, mouthwash pellets, string floss in a glass bottle, in a little glass jar. It's very cute stuff too. It's very boutique-y. Deodorant in paper tubes. Still the same company. Deodorant in paper tubes. So she also sells a metal container that you push the paper tube in, and you just use that. It's not a plastic tube. This is you want to go big or go home, right? There are ventless dryers now. They're based on heat pumps, and I bought one because I want to. My thought is, how is plastic getting in the atmosphere? Well, dryer vents, whoosh, right out, right? Most of the plastic we find in the river is fiber. It's probably coming from clothes. Well, my dryer vent doesn't go into the river. Nope, it goes into the air, and then it comes over and drops, right? So ventless dryers, but then you have to do, right, what do you do with it with a lint? There are Swedish companies that also have filters that you put on your washing machine effluent, right? What's coming out of your washing machine, it captures 98% of all the plastic fibers coming out of your washing machine. And then in Europe, they have a subscription service. So when your filter is full, 25 washes, you send it back to them. They recycle the plastic and send you a new filter. Right? Those are things that some companies in the United States are starting to look at as well. Paper bags, that's easy. Everybody can do that. Although I find that like Meyer or Olson's or whoever, they put the paper bags down below. You can't find them sometimes. Ask for them. Keep your clothes. That sounds weird. The older your clothes are, there have been research around this as well. The hotter water you use, the more clothes shed. So use cold water. The longer you keep your clothes, the fewer fibers they'll shed. So, you buy something, this is plastic, and it's going to shed fibers, but as the older it gets, the less it sheds. So fast fashion, of changing your clothes over every week or month or whatever, we really need to stop that. So keep your clothes. Talk to your legislator. Currently there is a ban on bans. It's all started because some communities wanted to ban plastic bags. So our legislatures put a ban on putting bans on plastic bags. So we need to talk to the legislature. And the Michigan Microplastics Coalition is trying to do this. They've tried to get stuff introduced into the legislature. I don't ban them, just charge for them. Other countries do that. You don't get, do you want a bag? Yeah, that's 10 cents or that's 50 cents. So, and then gosh, I was driving over here. Yeah, and then all that money can go to removing plastic out of the watershed or getting it off the beach. The only things, recycle plastic, most of it goes to a landfill and most of it goes into the ocean. So milk jugs and pop bottles are the only things that get reliably recycled. And it's really hard. I sit there and I look at my recycling bin and I'm like, there's no point in putting this plastic in there. It's not going to get recycled. It's too hard to recycle plastic. That was I don't want to get too political. That was a lie perpetrated by the plastic industry to make us feel better about using plastics. Plastic is not recycled. Pop bottles are ones and milk jugs are twos. Those are the only ones that get recycled reliably. Into fiber to make clothes. Things like reusable Q-tips. That sounds gross. But they're washable, right? They're washable. Laundry strips instead of laundry detergent in jugs. Now, I found a problem that the way they keep the laundry on the strip is with polyvinyl chloride, which is plastic. But they say, oh, it degrades. Right. It degrades to nothing. Okay. Degrades to something I maybe can't test unless I had a Raman spectrometer microscope, which can look at nanoplastics, and that I have to, that's $1 million machine that, University of Michigan has. But laundry strips and a little bit of polyvinyl chloride is perhaps better than a big jug. Replace, I did this immediately, thinking about this, all the plastic cookware that you have, like spatulas and stuff, those shed millions of particles. Get rid of them. Got rid of them, go get metal spatulas, metal glass pans, all the stuff, anything with Teflon on it, that's PFAS. Teflon is PFAS, but it also sheds plastic. So there's that. How to reduce the amount of plastic in your life. This is a really good one. Plastic is convenience, right? Paper bags don't have a handle. You're right, but paper bags are better. Reusable bags are even better. Reusable box, but plastic bags have a really nice handle on it. I can't, my brain just breaks every time I see someone put a milk jug in a plastic bag. The milk jug has a handle, and you're putting it in a plastic bag, right? So less convenience, things, sometimes, unfortunately, some of these things are a little bit more expensive as well. Some of the big companies like Procter & Gamble are coming up with ideas on how to get rid of plastic in their own packaging. That's where you see the polyvinyl chloride, but it's, shampoo in on a piece of paper that dissolves underwater, so there are, the larger companies are starting to do something. I think that's all I am. That's enough, isn't it? So, I don't know. Question?
What about, have you tested any prepared foods like canned chicken noodle soup or any frozen as well?
Yeah, so testing prepared foods. I just had students, the quick answer is no. However, I had students say, look, we're working on microplastics. Hey, microplastics may not be your thing, but it's the science. So ask questions. we don't have a question. Go over and look at these. You see some of the posters that we have in the back, and some of them are like data gaps. And so I said, go look at the data gaps and see what you come up with. We have all of this data in the watershed. See what you can come up with. They come back and say, we want to look at bottled water. Like, what? How is that the watershed? But you know what? Good question. And so just this past week, I went to Meyer and I got plastic bottled water, glass bottled water, can bottled water, and box bottled water, all four. And what's really great is the cans. I won't say should I say the brand? Cans, anyway, it has hashtag death to plastic because it's in a can. Of course, if you know how cans are constructed, they're constructed with a plastic liner. Okay, so death to plastic, it's in a can, and the students filtered the water and looked at it, and every single one had plastic in it. Every single one. Now, to be fair, the plastic bottle had the most plastic in it. But we make distilled water on campus. We go we make it goes through the whole process. There's plastic in it. So there's to say that we haven't really talked to the city. The city gets their water from East Bay. East Bay has plastic in it. So I have one more terrible thing to say. You can also do this. You can Google plastic rocks. There is an island 500 or 600 miles off the coast of Brazil, and Brazil's pretty awesome. They have environmental military police. I'm like, I want some of those, right? The environmental military police keeps people off that island because it is a turtle nesting site. Someone was out there looking around, doing scientific something, and they found plastic in the rocks on that island. Not on the rocks, in the rocks. So the plastic is incorporated into the rock. Not sure how that happens. Okay, questions? We'll get it.
So my intuition clearly is that microplastics are bad for us as humans. I mean, there are other animals that we care about, but as humans, the intuition says that. But do we have anything that actually points to the fact that, all these things are great, but if reducing microplastics, does it actually in the end save us as, organic beings? Or is this going to not be a problem?
Yeah, we don't know, right?
Okay.
Right now, I mean, a study just came out. All right, there's more plastic in your brain right now than there is in your liver. So it likes fatty tissues. Plastic likes fatty, so it's going into your brain. And I don't know how much I believe of what people said on the internet, but and I haven't seen the actual study myself, but it was you have about a plastic spoon's worth of plastic in your brain. Now, how much more can you take before it's just all plastic and no brain? I get what you're saying. There has to be a tipping point, and we're maybe not there yet. I was talking with a gentleman he's working on PFAS and how to testing equipment that you can take out into the field rather than bring it back to the lab. And we were sitting down and talking about this stuff, and I said, man, because nanoplastics, they're even harder to detect. And nanoplastics, microplastics I can keep out. For the most part. Nanoplastics will just cross cell membranes. They'll just go right through. There's no stop to them. I said, wow, I wonder if, because we were, I said, what if nanoplastics get into plants and they start disrupting like photosynthesis? And he's just went, now I'm terrified. I'm like, yeah, because we don't know. And there are studies of micro nanoplastics in plants. What are they doing in there? I don't know.
Birds, have you tested any?
No, we haven't tested any animals. They're super hard. Tissue samples are super hard because we just don't know. I don't have a protocol for that. Even I had a student bring in deer. Go. What are you doing this weekend? I'm going to go shoot a deer. Oh, great! Bring in parts in. We want brain, lungs, liver. something else. Lung. And I found a huge piece of plastic in the liver. Like, how the heck did that get in there? Now all of a sudden I'm thinking, wait, what are the controls on this? And we just didn't have any. So I don't know if it was from the deer or from something else. So. Ann McNeil? No, I don't. Oh yeah, I was really they're working on they were working on recycling diapers and the stuff that's in the diaper. Luckily they were using clean diapers, but how do you recycle that stuff inside of a diaper? And they found out by accident that stuff attracts plastic very well. Car tire. You think car tires? Car tires are made of rubber. No, they're not. They're made out of plastics. And I did talk to a gentleman from from Central Michigan, who they do sampling with like high schoolers or little kids, and they find mostly in their river. And I wasn't even looking for it, but they find mostly car tire in their river. And I said, "Wow, what does that look like?" They tell me, and then all of a sudden, "Oh yeah, there it is, there it is, there it is." But all of those particles stuck to the diaper absorbent. I thought, well, this is great. So we can they coated a wire mesh with it, and then you run water through it, and it does a really good job. And then I thought, wow, this is great. And then they said, except it starts to break down itself. And then when it breaks down, it's just going to be releasing the plastic again. So there's got to be an answer, but I don't think we're there yet. Yeah. I think that's what you were talking about, right?
Wait. Oh. She's got a substance that, like a plate, and I forgot. It's metal, but it attracts microplastics.
Yeah, I think that's what it's the what they're putting on the metal is the inner parts of the diaper.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was just on some podcast. I just heard it.
So do you still recommend that we throw our plastics into the recycling bin, even though they're really not being recycled? Is there something else we should be doing?
This is stop using the plastics. I have a hard time. I want to feel like I'm doing something good, but putting plastics in a recycling bin is not doing any good. Not using the plastic is doing the better thing, unfortunately, and that's harder to do. Yeah.
A suggestion with plastics, recycle the plastic of all kinds into fake firewood logs, and then burn the firewood logs. Would that work?
No. No, now you're just going to release toxins from the plastic into the atmosphere. No, I don't think so. I don't know if I like that. Make candles. So plastics can be incinerated, but it has to be in a commercial incinerator at hundreds and hundreds of degrees for it to actually go to carbon dioxide.
So I live near the Forest Lakes area, Spider Lake, in that area out there. How involved are they? How involved is that area with your watershed? And do you intend to study that area at all? Or
Yeah, I'm getting asked. Well, have you sampled this? No, we haven't done anything over there in Forest Lakes.
is it involved with the watershed, or is it separate from your board?
It's not. It's not part of. I don't think it's part of the watershed. Any questions for the? I've got 1, 2, 3 students here, and 2 of them did air sampling, and 1 of them is working on the water treatment plant and some other sampling as well. So if you have questions for like students, like how does this impact you? Oh, not that I'm priming the audience.
Not a plant,
If you'd
really.
like to ask.
Yeah, I wasn't planted.
Okay.
I was going to ask how the students that you have, what you see in them changing their own personal decisions. What do you buy? What do you not buy? I mean, do you try to go straight down the line? How?
Should I stand? Yeah, it's definitely affected my life. I think about just even the paper towel I'm using now. I mean, everything that I do. I haven't switched my detergent yet, although he's definitely an inspiration. I did switch everything to glass. I got rid of all of that plastic. I'm still struggling with like I just have a small freezer, so it's sometimes easier with Ziplocs. I just channel my dad, and he used to wash them and reuse them and wash them and use them. I don't. I need to get rid of that still, but it does still. It makes me think about everything. It's not even just plastic. I'm literally thinking of everything. Like, just why am I using paper towel at all? Use like fibers. Oh, but then it's microfiber, and then I'm like, I'm just like in this hole. Um, it's tough. What are you guys doing?
I think one of the more, I mean, yeah, it's difficult to really pay attention to plastic, especially on like a micro scale when you're just doing it yourself. But I think once the greater country and nation, and this is a thing that's going to be affecting the world pretty soon, once they start understanding what actually is affecting us because of these microplastics and what actual physical health effects can happen, I think there will be a kind of a grand understanding of what we need to do to delay it, which actually is really interesting because, plastic was invented in the 1860s to reduce the amount of ivory in billiard balls. So that was initially just kind of saving the elephants, when people were thinking, yeah, we don't want elephants to die anymore. Plastic is a way easier substance to make billiard balls with, color, to do everything with. They weren't thinking about, hey, 150 years later, are people going to be like dying because their brains are now 75% plastic? Who knows? But yeah, it's difficult, and especially for me, since I'm still in college, I don't have a lot of money to really afford expensive items, really. Whatever, a little bit. Uh, it's difficult, and it's something I think a lot about, and I talk to a lot of classmates about it, and they're like, whatever, dude, you gonna go to the party this weekend? And I'll be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's something that people need to think about more, and once this kind of national and maybe global understanding happens, then major changes will start happening. So right now, it's just difficult to do.
So a couple of changes I've made is I've started using like a natural brand of those laundry pods. So they're still probably lined with plastic, but it's not a whole jug. For milk, I get like the Shuttler's milk, which comes in a glass thing. Obviously, all glass containers. But at the end of the day, it's on everything you touch. It's in the air you breathe. You only can do so much. I feel like it just hits a point of like accepting it. But it's not super positive, but
Well, I mean, ultimately, right, this isn't something that we as consumers can fix. This has to be a governmental fix. That's what government's for. It's to do this this is a heavy lift. We can do a little piecemeal thing. If larger companies, if larger corporations get into the act of going plastic less, then the costs should come down for the average consumer. But buying toothpaste pellets and mouthwash pellets, it's expensive. But I'm also supporting an all-woman business in the state of California with it, so I don't feel bad about it. I'm helping her too, and she's helping us. Now, the only thing I haven't done is I haven't analyzed her toothpaste pellets for plastic. But those are things that we should be able to do. Yeah.
Are you saying that if we stick with cotton and wool clothing that we're not spreading micro?
Yeah. Yes. So go back to the basics, right? Cotton,
Okay.
wool. But we also have to tell companies, right? I get. I used to use disposable razors. Not anymore. I bought an actual razor, right? That single blade razor that's made out of aluminum, and I buy metal blades, and the metal blades recycle. But they started to sell their own shaving cream, and I said, "Here, buy our shaving cream," and they send it, and they give me a picture, and it's in a plastic squeeze bottle. I said, "No, until you get it out of a plastic squeeze bottle." Because the whole company was based on not using disposable razors, but now you're putting it in a plastic bottle. And I wrote to them and I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And they said, "That's a really good point." So even reaching out to companies and saying, "Hey, you change this. This means something." Yeah, and then I thought I would do something really good. I bought hemp T-shirts because hemp lasts a long time and it's a natural fiber, and it comes and it's 55% plastic. And I wrote to the company and said, "I'm not buying your T-shirts ever again because it's plastic." I mean, well, is it keeping it out of the landfill? Yeah, but it's just moving it from the landfill to my clothes to the air to go back into the water, right? So it's a tough situation. Yep.
Well, now I'm thinking of another question. When we get things in the mail and they have those the plastic see-through envelopes. Yeah. Sometimes they don't have that, but often they will, and they're from like Sierra Club and places like that. So, yep. Do you think if maybe we write to them and say, "Why are you guys doing that?" Yeah, because they can have an envelope without the plastic; it's just open. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, those are things that we could all do that make a little bit better, right? I'm going to ask my student this because Elle, who came up, she came back to NMC. She was an early college grad from NMC, went off to Western, and came back and said, "Hey, I'm trying to get into med school. Is there research that I can do?" And I said, "Sure. Here's some. We're gonna do take over Liam's work on air sampling, and we're gonna do air sampling all summer long. It's not medical stuff, but it's science stuff." And so I'm going to ask, how does that impact your life to actually to do that kind of work rather than, I don't know, anything else? Science is awesome, but.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it's definitely made me more of like an independent scientist. And we've had this discussion on like what a scientist really is. And I would have labs and whatnot. And just following the steps doesn't really make you a scientist. But I feel like with this, like we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't have any answers. We were kind of just figuring it out as we went. So that definitely impacted my learning.
What was your reaction like the first time you looked under a microscope?
Overwhelmed. I got like a headache. There were so many plastics for most of the samples. I think the highest sample we had was like 2,400 and something.
Those are actual counts.
In the air.
In a 2-week sample. 2 weeks. All that plastic fell into our container.
Yeah, but I'm definitely interested in looking at tissues and dealing with microplastics in the human body. So that's probably the next step.
So I had a question about what you're doing with the water treatment plant. Are you looking at their effluent or the drinking water that they put out, or both? Or
yeah, there's 4 sample points that we can get right from their lab, and we've chosen 3 of them. It's an influent, what's coming in from the bay, halfway through or mid treatment, and then the effluent, what would be drinking water. So we're sampling all 3 of those. You're not supposed to do this as a scientist. What I'm hoping is that zebra mussels, because zebra mussels will get on the influent pipe, and I'm hoping that zebra mussels are lowering the amount of microplastics that are going into the plant. We don't know that yet. That's a pipe dream, right? So, I'm also a dad. So, any thoughts on the process or any from either one of you? Yeah.
I'll be quick with it. Going into this as a fairly young scientists going into finishing their undergrad and then going into grad school and then maybe a PhD, when you discover these type of things like microplastics, it makes you really cynical. And I already was super cynical to begin with. You realize that a lot of the problems on this planet were because of humans. And that's really upsetting because I am a human. So what do you do with that feeling of kind of you let down your plan a little bit? You channel it into figuring out ways how to improve that issue that you as a species created. So when I'm collecting these airborne plastics and seeing 2,000 in a single petri dish over 2 weeks for one location, I go, oh crap, this is the worst thing I've ever seen ever, and it can be so impactful of everybody. And then I go, okay, so with this information, we need to be able to get it out to people and make people understand without turning it into an absolute like purge situation where everyone wants to like die. That's grim, but you know, it's plastic in your brain. It's making me feel more obligated to find ways to protect the environment. And so I originally was going to, I'm in Michigan State right now. I was in a neuroscience program. I switched to a zoology program with animal behavior and neurobiology, so I can focus a bit more on the environment and the animals involved and make sure that what they're doing is not getting impacted by what we have done to them. So looking at ecology, understanding what animals maybe are getting impacted by due to humans' interaction with their environment. But you know, it emboldens me when faced with this situation where we're infecting the world with something that might not actually go away due to us trying to save elephants. It's emboldening, and it makes me want to continue my work and become more proud about what I'm doing to maybe heal this planet a little bit.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So I'm Jen, by the way, and I met Dr. Roster a couple of years ago taking a class that I needed for my graduate program. But what started as a project to appease him turned into so much more because I am a Northern Michigan native. I'm from Alpena. I lived in the UP for 7 years. I came here in 2018. I love the water. We have 22%, I believe, of the world's fresh water. And so this just fascinated me. So even when my class, like in a bad way, you know, and so even when the class ended, I still kind of was interested in helping. And recently he's been helping me get some more research hours towards my application for PA school, and I've been helping him with the water treatment plant, and we're finding plastic in every single part of it. And it's crazy what I'm finding under the microscope. And so it directly affects me as a Michigander. It directly affects me living here, being part of this community, and hopefully part of the population that I'm going to serve. And so it kind of just, I want to do more, but I don't know what to do. And so we're kind of figuring out together. And that's why he's kind of like got my interest into science. And I'm 40, I'm old. So compared to a lot of students out there, I've been through, 2 different degrees. Like his teaching methods are completely different. They engage you. And the methods he has taught me, I know I will take into grad school to help like the memorization stuff we did. So it's just been like a different way to catch my interest and to a different way to learn and to hopefully help all of us around here with all this microplastic in the water.
Of course. You should. Okay.
Do you have any ways to donate for community members, whether it be monetary or time? Like I got my cross-country skis. We can use those to get to the sample site in the winter.
Yeah. I'm not going to Site T. It's always difficult for me to kind of put all this together, and I'd love to have help. You can always, if you're interested, you can donate to the NMC Foundation and earmark it for, just put my name on it. That'll work. But everywhere I go, I've done a number of these talks, and I always talk about, what do we need? What does the lab need? And mostly what people want to know is, well, what kind of plastic is it? And that's a $150,000 machine, which, wow, it's not $1 million. 150 is not bad. Lake Superior State has 2 machines that they bought for $400,000 each. I'm like, well, I'm trying to be cheaper and do the same thing. So that would be great. But if anyone is ever interested in, like, hey, it's sampling time, especially in the summer, I'm just driving around by myself getting water samples. But yeah, we can train anyone to take water samples. And especially with the Platte, there's 8 more sample sites on the Platte that we've just started. So there's always room. Or if you say, our aviation department, I did a water sample out of a well for one of our instructors, and he said, do you want us to get samples off of every lake we land on in the summertime? I'm like, oh God, no. But yeah, it would be really cool. They fly around and they land on a lake. They could get a water sample, bring it back. So there's all kinds of opportunities out there. So yeah, I'd take all the help I can get, because it is getting out of hand. Yeah.
What to do? I mean, I'm looking at this list, and I'm a woman. I like to shop, and I use actually native deodorant is about the best thing.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't buy it from Amazon, because then it's in a plastic case.
Yeah.
But it's all about our consumer decisions.
Yes.
How
Yes.
we buy and how we live.
Yes. Yep. And it's hard. Like I said, I think we have to be okay with less convenience, and that's hard. We're used to that convenience. But we have to start making hard decisions. And there's been so many times. I would love it if every restaurant in Traverse City would just stop giving you a straw, make you ask for it. I figured out it's only taken. I'm older than 40. It's only taken me this long to figure out I actually don't need a sippy cup when I go to a restaurant. I can drink right out of the cup, and it works. Just like at home. I don't know. So those are things that, people take metal straws with them or whatever, and they actually make full collapsible metal straws that you can put in a little container that you just put in your pocket. But then I have to clean a metal straw. Yeah, a little less convenience. But, I think what tore it for me was watching someone, with a pair of pliers pull a straw out of a sea turtle's nose. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, and companies are trying different things, paper straws rather than plastic straws, but then they find out that there's more PFAS in the paper straw than there is in the plastic straw. So now those are gone. I mean, it's like how can we not figure this out? Aren't we? We're pretty bright organisms. So.
Yeah, it's dying. Anyway, are you interacting with the water department? Water department at NMC.
Water studies?
Sorry.
Not really. I've talked to them. They're kind of doing their thing. They are building the Freshwater Research Innovation Center, FRIC, which I'm not a part of. I don't know. Yeah, it's not like we don't like each other. They're just on another campus. That makes it a little bit harder. But yeah, I'm not doing much with them. We should.
Will you join me in thanking Dr. Roster?
I'm going to use this. So, thank you, Nick, Dr. Roster, very much, and your students. My script says it was very informative, but I would say it's been inspirational. What do you guys think?
Please go to our website, Lwvgta.org, for a recording of this program and additional information about the activities of the League. For information about your voting rights, a good place to go is michiganvoting.org. That's a simple one to remember, and it's everything you need to know because, you know, we have to think about the new smart IDs and all those kind of things. And I have a couple more commercial announcements, so stay tight here. Our League of Women Voters Grand Traverse area offers other programs and forums in face-to-face and virtual formats. Thank you to the Traverse Area Community Media folks and to the staff here at the Traverse Area District Library for assisting our community in expanding and strengthening citizen access. The League of Women Voters is a national, state, and local nonpartisan organization whose main mission is to empower and inform voters and defend democracy. The website of our local league is lwvgta.org. Thank you again to Bill Stott. He's the one that talked Dr. Roster into doing this program in the first place. And so, and Bill is part of our Natural Resources and Environment Committee. Also, thanks to the volunteers from the League of Women Voters that are here tonight that helped with this program, and also Alice Schumann and our president, Christina Schlitt. This moment in democracy is quickly shifting, and direct threats to the U.S. Constitution require that our work at the League shifts as well. Tonight, during the President's Address to Congress, League of Women Voters will host a nationwide action for democracy. It's called Light for Our Democracy. The events will be held across the nation. It's at 8:30 tonight, and if you would, please take a moment to reflect how we the people reclaim our democracy. You can access it by going to lwv.org/light-our-democracy. I'll tell you again afterwards if you want to know it. It's a live stream event starting at 8:30. We greatly appreciate the energy and passion from League members in this moment. The spirit to act and fight for our democracy is exactly the courage we need to defend our constitutional republic. Also, we encourage you to call your congressional representatives and senators to vote no on the SAVE Act. I don't know if you're familiar with that. SAVE stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, but when you read it, you'll realize it's voter suppression. So remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Get involved. Thank you and good night. And there's lots of still handouts on microplastics on the back table if you'd like to pick up one. Thanks a lot.